Okay, well, good evening to everybody, and welcome to the Alumni High School panel. And I wanted to ask the people that can, the parents and families are here. If you're in a situation where you can have your screen on, it would be nice just so we could see your faces if you can do that. If you're in a situation where you can't, I understand that you might not always be in the best situation to have your screen on. It's just always nice when we can see faces, and I appreciate so to be able to see some of the parents and the students here. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and start. And first, I'd like to start to welcome the alumni. I have six alumni here from the various types of high schools that I'll go into greater detail with as we get along. And just for the seventh grade families, because it's mostly seventh grade families that are here, just to just review like what we've done so far, and then what you can plan for after this evening. So at the beginning of the school year, a lot of the seventh grade families, you attended the high school presentations that happened at the middle school. Mostly it was the private schools, and I think many families also attended like the Berkeley High information night, and even some families you may have done the tours at Berkeley High. And then in February, I did the overview, the process where just talking to you about different types of high schools that you can go to after EB, looking at the public sector, looking at the different types of private schools. And then tonight I have alumni from the different types of private schools. So I have and public schools. So I have somebody from Berkeley High, and I have two from independent private schools, and then a boarding school, and then the Catholic schools. So you can get this a snapshot of what it's like at each of those different types of schools. And then starting after spring break, I'm going to have individual meetings with every seventh grade family. And in those meetings, I create an individual high school plan for you. And that is to help you tailor the plan for what you need as a family and start selecting a list of high schools to look at in the fall. So that's kind of where we are now. So why don't I first start? I wanted to just refer to you two attachments that I sent to you earlier today. Um, the first one here is this just gives you and I know you've seen this probably many times before, but this gives you what the high school placement is for EB over the last 5 years. And this again, I want to review the different types of high schools. So you have the independent high schools, which for the independent ones that I have represented tonight are Head Royce and College Prep. And then I have the religious schools, which are looking at Bishop O'Dowd and St. Mary's. So I have somebody from each of those schools. And then I have for the public school, I have Berkeley High. And then this is the first time I have this year, so I appreciate Noah being here, is I actually have a representative for the boarding schools. So you can really get the full picture of the schools. And then to help you as we have our discussion with the alumni here, is I created this spreadsheet for you to refer to as the alumni talk. I gave you some background information about each of the schools. So they have the student's name. So when the student talks, you can see what school they're at, and then have just some general information about the languages they offer, the size of the school, if it's a private school, what the school costs, the ratio of students per classroom, and just other identifying information about those schools just to help with maybe the questions you want to ask the alumni. And then I also included Oakland Tech on there because that's another public school where our students matriculate at, the other most common public school. And then I don't have a representative from International High School here this evening, but that's gives you some information about if you want to continue on with the French education. So if you could just like during this presentation refer to that form as well, as the alumni talk. So I'm first going to start with, if I could have just the alumni, I'll go through and have each of you introduce yourselves, what school you're at, and what grade you're in. Um, so maybe I could start with Valentine. You're to my right, so maybe I could start with you.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Valentin Aubert. I'm in 10th grade and I go to Head Royce.
And I'm just going to move. I don't know how you guys are situated on your screen, but on my screen, I have Hank is next.
Yeah, hi. I'm Hank Roberts. I go to college prep, and I'm also a sophomore.
Okay, and then to Luke.
Hey, I'm Luke or Luke Abood, and I'm a sophomore at St. Mary's.
Okay, then Isla
Hi, my name's Isla, and I'm a sophomore at Bishop O'Dowd.
and Noah, and then Samira. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Noah Bennett, and I go to Deerfield Academy, the boarding school.
And you want to say where it is too? Yeah.
Oh yeah, so this boarding school is located in Western Massachusetts, about 3 hours from Boston.
Okay, great. And then Samira.
Hi, I'm Samira. I'm in 10th grade and I go to Berkeley High.
Great. Perfect. So my next question is, for the parents and students, I'm going to ask a few lead-in questions for the alumni, and then I'm going to turn it over to any of the students or parents that you may have questions for specific schools, or if you want to ask a question of the whole panel. So maybe since I start with you this time, Samira, like if you want to explain like what the transition was like for you going from EB to Berkeley High. Maybe talk about maybe some of the positive aspects and maybe any challenges that you experienced with that
Yeah,
transition.
I definitely was pretty nervous about it because it's Berkeley High is like 3,600. I think your spreadsheet said 3,200, but I'm pretty sure it's like 36. It's
Is
like a
it
lot.
36? Okay, I might have it a little bit off. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but and then EB is really small. So everyone was talking about how like the change is going to be really big. But honestly, I feel like for me, like Berkeley had just like because freshman year we have hives, which is like there's seven like freshman year is split into like seven groups. And there's seven, yeah, there's seven of them. And there's like 80 to 100 kids in each group. And so they kind of like make it feel like whichever like hive you're in, like that's your school. So it kind of, and then even like sophomore, junior, senior year, there's like small schools. So it's like a really big school, but they do like break it up so that you can like feel more comfortable. And so that was like the positive aspect. I feel like the transition was good for me, but I think maybe getting used to some like, because you know, like at EV, you don't really see people like getting into trouble or like Berkeley High is like in downtown Berkeley. So you do see like just you're exposed to like different things that you weren't at EB because it was just like very small, as I said, and like yeah, you guys know. But so that was like a bit challenging to get used to, but once I did, it's just like I think it's an important like life experience to get used to. And yeah, I think it's good to like expose kids to that.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then what program are you in? Did you choose like the Learning Academy?
I'm in AC, which is academic choice. So I get to choose two electives. There's International Baccalaureate, which is IB, which is what some other people did. Like Delphine's doing that, Jane is doing that. But that's you get one elective, and then that's like more academically rigorous. But AC, you can like choose more academically rigorous classes as opposed to getting like put into them from IB. So yeah, that's the path I chose, but a lot of EV people do choose IB.
Okay, great. Thank you, Samira. And then for the question that's in the chat, what I'm going to do is first ask some lead-in questions for the alumni, and then I'll turn it over to the parents where you can just ask your question. You don't have to type it in the chat. You can, or you can just ask your question out to them. So can I go to the next person? Maybe I could go with Noah since you're to my left, like talk a little bit about the transition and
Yeah, so obviously Deerfield is a boarding school, so a lot bigger of a transition. I think one of the best parts was getting to know so many people. Um, Kind of similar to what Samir was saying. My grade was about 100, like over 100 people, so a lot bigger than my grade back at EB. But I think like getting to know so many people and as a boarding school, so many people from around the country or if not like the world was such an interesting experience because I've made very deep and personal connections with a lot of people that I would have never met. Like one of my best friends currently lives in Chicago, when she's not at school, and there's a kid down my hall from Saudi Arabia to give you like a reference of where people are. And I think one of the most difficult changes was kind of I mean, I guess it was like finding a new passion, um, which is kind of more just of like a personal thing. But also I think more in general, something that was very difficult across the board was kind of adjusting on being more independent and self-reliant because again, like you're living with others and other teachers, but you're kind of taking care of yourself. So like basic amenities like, taking a shower every day, being on top of your homework, things like that, making sure you go to dinner, which is served, but like kind of still like now you're kind of making sure you're getting to all these places on your own, which I think is one of the hardest but most, in my opinion, important parts of the boarding school experience.
Wow, great. And maybe you could ask one question related to that because you got accepted to a couple of local independent schools. And how did you make that decision between going to like an independent private school and the boarding school? If that's
Honestly, uh, when most people ask this, I gotta just say I was more into like the vibe of a boarding school versus an independent school, which a lot of people say that like boarding schools aren't for everyone, but I think it's also works vice versa. Like not all independent schools are for everyone. But I was kind of also very intrigued by like the independence that you gain and can grow, the amount of people you can meet and things like that. I thought were very important to me as well.
right. All right. Thank you, Noah. And maybe I could go with Isla. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
follow
Oh,
across. Yeah.
oh yeah. No, yeah. O'Dowd is definitely bigger than EB, but it's definitely not as big as like Berkeley High or anything. It's definitely a big change because there's just so many people like you can meet. Like I still like I'm a sophomore and I do not know everyone in like my grade,
Mhm.
but it's like really easy to make new friends. Like it was really not that hard for me. Like I think you just have to like really push yourself to like be more like outgoing and like try to be a little bit more extrovert because I know like at EB you like have like lifelong friends since like you were like in preschool. So I think you just have to really like put yourself out there. And I think it's really easy too because O'Dowd has so many different like clubs and like different like they offer so much stuff like theater and stuff so you can definitely like find your group of people. So I think it was like I found my group of people like really through like tennis because I've been playing tennis since I was really little. So I joined the tennis team and I was able to like find my group of friends and like all that. So yeah.
Thank you, Isla. Thank you. And then I'm gonna go with Luke.
Yeah, I think Isla actually touched on a lot of things I was going to talk about. But yeah, definitely socially. I mean, St. Mary's is not nearly as big as any of these other schools, or at least the ones that have been mentioned so far. So I would say it's definitely a shift socially, and takes putting yourself out there, and you kind of have to. It was kind of like a little life lesson to learn how to make friends. That might sound a little funny, but like Isla said at EB, like Isla and I have known each other for well over a decade. Um, and like I really hadn't had the need to make new friends for the many years I was at EB. Um, so switching to a bigger school, and I still have a lot of friends from my graduating class at St. Mary's. Um, but I've definitely branched out and found new people.
Mhm.
So I would say, yeah, socially it is a little tough, but I think it's easy enough to put yourself out there and find people that have similar interests. So sports definitely help. A lot of my current friends are guys who are on my team.
Mhm.
So yeah, sports definitely help. And in terms of academic preparation, EB is way ahead of the game in terms of math specifically. Um, the fact that EB teaches geometry in middle school places like all EB students well ahead of everyone else. And so a lot of the EB students, at least at St. Mary's, are in junior and senior math classes right off the bat, just because of being able to skip geometry.
Mhm.
So yeah,
You,
definitely.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
You went into Algebra 2 trig then? Is that what you?
Yeah, so I started off in Algebra 2 honors as a freshman, and now I'm taking AP pre-calculus. So my class is majority seniors, a solid amount of juniors, and then a few of us EB students as sophomores. So yeah, EB definitely sets you ahead of the game in terms of math, and then along with all the other courses, EB definitely prepares you well.
Oh,
So
great. Thank
yeah,
you.
that's my spiel.
And I add one other question, because you had a choice too between St. Mary's and an independent school that you got accepted into. And like, was there something that went into helping you make that decision?
Um, I don't have a great answer for that.
Yeah.
I have an older sister who went through St. Mary's,
Yeah.
and it was kind of just I have friends at one school, I have friends who I know are going to St. Mary's, but my sister's there, and it was kind of like they're close enough, and I might as well just follow with my sister.
Great. Okay. Thank you. And I'm going to go with Hank and then Valentine.
Yeah, on the academic side of things, since college prep is definitely a really rigorous school, I agree with Luke that the academic transition from EB was really not a problem, even into an environment that's that academically rigorous, because definitely, the math does get you ahead, but then also just the type of work that you do and the amount of work that you do really gets you good practice with that.
Mm.
And then on the social side, my experience was that, and maybe Val can speak on like the opposite side of this, but for the most part, you're likely to go to a school where everyone is new, like it's just 9 through 12, like everyone is meeting new people. And I was in a particular situation where no one from my class DB is in my class at college prep. So I really had to push myself. And that was definitely, like Luke said, not an experience that you have to do much at EB because you just know the same people for so long. But for the most part, that's the case for everyone. And, you get out there and just through, yeah, sports is a good way to do it, but even just through your regular classes, you meet new people pretty fast. So honestly, you just have to stay open, and then typically you tend to find friends that way, I would say.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Hank. And then I go to Valentine.
Um, my experience was extremely smooth. It wasn't I had worse like Hank said, it was a lot of them had come from eighth grade, seventh grade, and in the middle school. But honestly, getting into soccer and kind of like starting a sport right away, and kind of like having practicing during the summer, kind of like knowing a lot of like meeting new people during the summer really sets you up for the beginning of the school year. And then they do like these little retreats that help you socialize, and meet new people. So honestly, socially it was really easy, and then academically, kind of like what everybody touched on, it just prepares you extremely well, for high school.
So even like with Head Royce, because that's the only school that's represented here that's a K through 12. The others are only high school, so everybody's new coming there. How was that like? Especially, I think in your year, Head Royce only took probably 35 new students. I think that's changing as they expand the high school.
Yeah.
Like in terms
So
of like,
they're expanding the high school. So it's I think this year they took like 50 or something.
yeah,
Um,
they took
but
15 more than last year. They took 55 new students this year.
yeah, it's kind of it's not really weird. It's kind of cute to see like the little kids kind of like walking around, going up to like the gym or whatever. Um, but it's it's just kind of like you're mainly just with like your friends, and um, you're in an environment where they kind of broke it up into like three different sections, so you kind of only see the high school kids more. Um, but yeah, it's not anything weird particularly.
Okay, great. So maybe I'll stick with you, Valentine, and ask
Yeah,
the next question about like French. Like how are you keeping up with your French? If you don't mind me asking too, like what level you tested into? I know you speak French at home too, but
yeah.
like what level did you test into? And maybe while you're doing that question, talk about the homework as well,
For French
or
or
just overall
um,
the French, and then like what the
well,
homework
I
looked.
test yeah. So I tested it in the highest French. I think most of the kids that are here testing the highest French too.
Yeah.
Um, but honestly, it's not that difficult compared to EB. It's probably I would say it's even like a decreasing level. But it's the homework load is not like freshman year with homework load was not that hard. Sophomore year gets a bit tricky, but it's still manageable. Um, French is French is really easy at the moment, but
Are you
there's
an
nothing
AP
else.
now? Is that what you take an
Yeah, we don't really do APs, but
I
it's
don't
like
have
yeah,
AP.
it's AP curriculum. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Um, and so the homework though, like, do you have like how many like hours of homework would you say you have per day?
Uh, Depends on the day, depends on the week, but I would usually say like hour 30 minutes
Okay.
usually.
Okay.
Yeah, probably there around there.
Okay. And then I'm just going to go back the other way. Just ask Hank. Um, and you can talk a little bit about what because college prep, what their language offerings are. And
Yeah. So the year when we were all in eighth grade was the last year that we had French at CPS. So I have not taken French at all. I just went into Spanish. They currently have Spanish, Mandarin, and Latin. And I tested into Spanish 3, and I think a lot of that was actually due um, to the EB Spanish curriculum, especially towards the end of our time. I think my skills got a lot better. So I think even if you decide not to take French, you're still pretty well prepared from EB for a third language choice, I guess is the case. And for the overall homework load, I would say honestly, it's pretty similar to Val. It really varies week to week, and I'm sure that's the case for other schools. But overall, um, what I've learned is that the homework definitely expands to like fit the time you have to do it. But overall, if you're really focused, you can get it done in like an hour or 90 minutes. So it's really not too bad.
so some of the things like that go around, like I just had the eighth graders, as we were talking about before the meeting started. Um, they when they go their decision about college prep, they worry about the homework load. That's like kind of a rumor that's going around that
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing. And I would say don't worry about the homework load. I would say more so than the homework load, it's really just you have to be prepared to advocate for yourself and set up meetings with your teachers if you need them. And it's really way more that than the time commitment because I don't think the amount of time you spend on homework is any more than it would be anywhere else, or really not by much. But some of the coursework I think is tricky enough that you have to be, you know, you have to learn when you're coming into ninth grade to talk to your teachers, and they make it really easy to do that. But yeah, I would say that's really more
okay.
um, the
And
thing to
then
have in mind.
okay, and then the last question for you, Hank, and then we'll move to Luke. As what are you doing in terms of keeping up with French? Right.
Um, Honestly, I'm not. It's kind of sad to say, but I do, since I have a younger sister who's still at EB, and my mom went to EB and so speaks French from that. We sort of speak it around the house sometimes, but um, I'm definitely rustier than I was.
Mhm.
But I think as far as ways to keep it up, there's definitely, I've definitely heard of some groups and classes that you can take that a lot of EB people were doing if they couldn't take French, or
Okay.
you can just find ways to do it with, other people that speak French in your life if you have any of those. So you
And just
find ways.
last question related to that is, will you still take the AP, the French AP exam?
I did last year
You did
actually.
last year. Okay.
Yeah, and that EB definitely prepared me very well for that. So
Okay. So you could take it and like for those that for the people here, if you do go to college prep, that you could take it through the school in
yeah,
ninth grade year.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so Luke, to you, the question with the French and then about the homework load overall.
Yeah, I'll just apologize in advance. There's some music. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it's a little loud.
I can't hear it, but I don't know if
Okay, great. Um, so in terms of French, unfortunately, St. Mary's French is really lacking. The teacher is American, and there's been some bad experiences with EB students who are better than the teacher. So I'm not taking French because my sister went through that and didn't work out well for her. Um, so French at St. Mary's, I would say avoid it and actually go for Spanish and take French outside of school. So I have a busy schedule and couldn't take French during the year and instead took AP French as a course over the summer and super easy course like EB. There's no like nothing that EB leaves out in terms of taking AP French.
Mhm.
Um, So yeah, I would say just take AP French either outside of school after classes or over summer.
Okay.
And then you can go for the AP test whenever.
Yeah.
And I would do Spanish and test into Spanish.
Mhm.
Even if you took Mandarin, I took Mandarin. Um, and I would say even test in because there's so much crossover between French and Spanish that you like I had no real knowledge about Spanish. I mean, sure, my parents speak it, my sister spoke it, and whatever. I've watched movies, so on, but I had no real education in Spanish, and I found it incredibly easy, even.
And it's a native French, I think it's a native Spanish speaker that teaches that.
Yeah, at St. Mary's, Spanish is
Yeah.
definitely better than French. They're not lacking in Spanish at all. There's only one French teacher at St. Mary's who is very lacking. But we have maybe four Spanish teachers who are all incredible. Um, so yeah, I would say definitely opt in for Spanish and take the placement test, regardless of if you think you know nothing, because who knows, you might get placed a level above what you would have expected.
Okay, great. And then the last part is what about the homework? Like, how is the homework load at?
Yeah, homework load at St. Mary's, I will say we have something called A block, which is kind of like an office hours after school. So I guess it's about maybe it's 40 or 45 minutes after school where teachers are, for the most part, all in their classes, and you can go to whatever teacher you need. I think EB has office hours on Wednesdays. I'm not sure if I'm
Yeah,
remembering
yeah, we still
correctly.
do. We still have it there. Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty much the same thing. Yeah, you can go to any teacher, or you can just not eat like I'll go. I like my English teacher. I'll go to his room and do math work. Like it's not, you can kind of just go wherever, do whatever. So you're given lots of time to get work done. I will say at EB, especially in math class, I know the math period at EB was spent mostly doing the work, and whatever you didn't finish was homework.
Mhm.
And that allowed me, at least, and I know lots of other peers, to get ahead by a couple days or maybe just have no homework. Um, at St. Mary's, at least for the math specifically, it's a lot more kind of not lecturing, but just lesson teaching during the period, and you are left with the homework to do on your own.
Okay.
So you're given less in-class time, I would say, than at EB, just because EB gave such a substantial amount of it,
Yeah.
or such a large amount of it. And at St. Mary's, it's less time during the period, but you're still given lots of time after school. And I would say it's not even an excessive amount at all. It's more than manageable across all of my classes, freshman and sophomore year. So yeah, lots of time is given. And on Wednesdays and Thursdays, we're given a period of, I think it's around an hour, maybe a little less, of pretty much the same as that A block period after school, where all teachers are in their classrooms, or you can just go to the library and do whatever work you need. And yeah, like work is very much encouraged. There's actually very few people that are kind of just goofing off. Like everyone is ready to do their work, and it's a very productive environment.
Great. Thank you, Luke.
Yeah.
Thanks. And I'm gonna go with Isla. I'm just gonna go back through the thing. So Isla would speak to.
Wait, what was the question again? I feel like we talked
Yeah,
about
I know.
I feel
All
like
right. The question is about what French, like how's the if you continue with French, like what is the French like at
oh,
your school, what level, and then a little bit about the homework load.
okay.
And I see your sister joined us here. So,
Who? My sister?
I think your sister's here,
Oh
maybe.
yeah, it's probably my mom.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, French from Bishop from EB to Dow was pretty good. You have to take if you don't want to just like join French immediately and go into French one, you have to take like a placement test and you have to take honors French 3 to take AP French. So I completed Honors French 3 and then now I'm taking AP, which is pretty good. Like our French teacher is really good. He he like dedicated his whole like education to like major in French and everything. And like he like sounds kind of fluent and he's not even like from France or anything.
Okay.
Um, and he's like really good. He really is like preparing us for the AP exam right now. And I've heard like a lot of good things about him and he's like really nice too. So
And are you with then because you're an upper level French, and I guess this is for the other people too that are you're with juniors and seniors then, kind of like with the math, or you're with older with
yeah, there's not many people who take AP French. So like my class is like 6 people right now. And like literally everyone in that class except like one person is from EB. So it's
oh,
actually really cool. But he teaches all of French. We have like there's only one French teacher and it's like yeah, it's pretty good.
great. And then the other question is about homework. Like what's your homework
Okay,
load?
yeah. The homework load is not bad at all. Like I think it's definitely different from EB, but it's like manageable. Like freshman year was pretty good. Like it was not bad at all and like it definitely picked up this year because everyone's taking like an AP, so it's like a lot more, but it's like really not that bad. Like it's really manageable. Like I do like a sport outside of school, and
Mhm.
I've been able to like manage both, and I also have like a social life, so it's like not that bad at all.
Great. Thank you. So let me go to Noah.
Yeah. So, I guess one thing that was really outstanding about this was kind of seeing your homework load compared to mine. Very different. Um, so basically we follow this weird curriculum where we have three different classes each day and they kind of flip in between. And each class is allowed to assign about an hour of homework. So that's basically 3 hours per night of homework. Which sounds like a lot, but if you actually like compare that to, you know, it actually isn't like quite manageable to do and very lenient. Um so like today, I mean I take so tomorrow my classes would be math, dance, and French. So I managed to get my math work done. Dance doesn't really have any work in it. And then I mean French is French, so I get that work done. Um but yeah, that's about like the homework load. But I think the transition was pretty easy for me. I also w was doing like back at EB, I was doing 2 hours every night of almost every night of a sport like sometimes 3 hours of a sport alongside my homework. So being able to manage that really helped me in being able to manage like my extracurricular activities here as well as a lot of homework. Um, but also kind of gives you like independence, like figuring out what you're good at and what you're bad at and what you can do quickly and learning how to manage your own time basically. So for an example, like I'm really bad at like kind of reading in general. I take really long, like absurd amount of time on reading and annotations. So what I'll do is I'll either like find some like online audiobooks or kind of like try picking up information in class as well and do as much reading as I can outside of class. Finding time like in my spare time where I'm not doing anything with friends or people.
Mhm.
And kind of spending that time also trying to do that. Basically like finding increments and I end up getting like pretty good grades um, which like I've found pride in kind of managing that. And that's true for like all criteria.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's kind of like one of like a very important key aspect of the school is kind of being able to like learn how to manage that time difference.
Yeah.
But for like regarding like help with teachers, you also get I don't know if they're still going to be doing this, but this year they have essentially like community time. Think of it like a almost like a morning snack time after first period where you can do whatever. But on Tuesdays you can go and see your teachers who will be in their office. And then after schools, a lot of the teachers live either on or nearby campus. And on certain days we'll be staying late. And during study hall, which is we get 2 hours dedicated to just doing homework in our dorms, we can go off to find our teachers if they are on campus and kind of ask for their help if we don't understand something or need help on something. So we actually do get a lot of opportunities, which is one of the benefits of living so close to a lot of our teachers, is that we kind of get them almost 24/7.
Oh,
Um,
great. Instead of
yeah.
emailing them, you just go to their.
Yeah, basically, which is I find really handy. And then regarding specifically the French side,
Yeah.
I'm currently in French 4 honors. So last year I also did a placement test like Isla said, and I tested into French 3 honors. So this year I'm taking French 4 honors, and there's about three other sophomores in two periods of French 4 honors. And last year I was the only sophomore in French 4. And there's a few others that are a little higher that came in this year from French speaking countries. Again, it's an international boarding school. So they kind of grew up speaking French and English and placed into higher classes. Um, and like these classes, I would say focus more heavily on grammar, whereas EB focuses more on culture, speaking, like oral, like presentation of French, which I think was took me the longest to realize the big difference between the two. And like earlier was definitely like a struggle for me to kind of switch up from like constantly speaking to like not speaking as much, but doing a lot more writing and written work. But I feel like the French program here is definitely meant for people that are just starting. So I kind of get a sense of the language, which will be French 1, French 2.
Yeah.
French 3, 4, and 5 are kind of more focused on like being able to write and study the language, conjugation, things like that, like very more like nitty-gritty, like grammatical stuff. And then 6, and I believe we have it to, yeah, 7 are more focused on the actual culture, and are more like discussion based kind of things.
Great. All right. Thank you, Noah. Thanks. So I'll go with Samira, and then after Samira answers, I'll turn it over to the parents and students to ask questions of the panel. Do you want me to
Yeah.
repeat the questions, Samira? Are you?
Oh no, it's
Yeah.
French level and homework load.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So for Berkeley High, it's pretty similar. Like we had to take a placement test. I think it was either at the end of eighth grade or in like the summer going into freshman
Yeah,
year.
I think for Berkeley it is. Yeah, I think they
This
offer both. They offer in end of eighth grade or they offer in August, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did take that and there was like a lot of EB people there. You are gonna find EB people in your French class because that's just like it's all the EB kids are in the French classes. But yeah, I tested and I got into French 4, but I decided to take French 3 because that would have meant taking AP French this year and I had like my sights set on another AP class and my counselor thought having two would be like a bit too much sophomore year because I'm taking AP Art History right now, which is pretty rigorous. But I like really wanted to take that this year. So I am taking AP French next year. But yeah, I really like my teacher. She's very yeah, she's like very fun and she's a good teacher. And there's two teachers. One is Kinar and one is Madame Ray. But Madame Kinar teaches AP. Well, she teaches all the French classes, but next year I'm gonna have her for AP French. But so far I've only had the one French teacher. Um, and yeah, I'd say my homework load connecting to that. It's like mostly from my AP it's mostly from my electives. It's from AP Art History and French 4. But yeah, it's pretty like AC is just which is my small school. It's like very like choose your own. Like if you choose hard classes, like you're gonna get a good amount of work, but I think it's definitely good to do that in sophomore year, especially because a lot of people try to pack it in like junior year, and that's just like not a good idea, and then everyone just gets burnt out. So that's kind of why I wanted to take a more challenging AP class this year. But oh yeah, and my homework load, I have yeah, I run track, so I'm pretty like busy and like yeah, like friends like Isla said and all that, but I still feel like I can manage and like balance my work. And it's kind of like EB in the sense where you can like this is probably like where everyone goes, like which school everyone goes to, but it's like you can kind of do your work like ahead of time, like you can find a way even though if it's not like posted or anything like
Mhm.
like you can find a way to do your work ahead of time so that you can get it done with, and then you can have time to do other stuff.
Okay, great. Thanks. And then there's one other question I forgot to ask you, Samira, because you looked at several other
Yeah.
private sectors before you chose Berkeley High, and what can you just share what how you decided to Berkeley High over the other private options?
Yeah, I looked at St. Mary's and O'Dowd.
That's right.
And I like toured them a lot, and I took like the HSBT, which I studied for a lot. I know like some of you are my HSBT study class, which was really helpful, by the way. I recommend these seventh graders take it, I think eighth grade year.
Mhm.
It's like an after school thing taught by the
Yeah.
math teachers,
Yeah,
but
they still do that. Yeah, and they'll do
yeah,
it again.
it was so helpful for me. And like honestly, I've just like taken those skills. And like every time I take like a bubble sheet test, like I just remember my like HSPT strategies. But yeah. Yeah.
I think Hank had dropped off, but he's back, right? I think something happened.
Yeah, that was my bad.
No, no, that's right. I just, yeah. Great. Thank you, Samira. So what I'd like to do now is just turn it over to any the parents or students. If you have questions, you can either type it in the chat, or if you just want to call out a question, or raise your hand if I can, for those of you that can see. Um, Anybody have some questions that they'd like to ask?
Hi,
Either the panel or the whole. Yeah, go ahead, Andrea.
Milan,
Yes,
and some of my former students. It's so nice
yes.
to see all of you. And actually, I have a question for Luke, and hopefully it doesn't put him too much on the spot, but I was wondering if he could tell everybody if he comes from a religious background and a religious family, and how the religion component feels at
Oh
his.
yeah, that's a great question. I admit, and maybe for Isla too, for in terms of Bishop Badal. But yeah,
Yeah, that's true too. Yes.
Yeah, personally, my family not very religious at all. My grandparents go to church every so often, but nothing really serious, nothing strict. Um, and actually at St. Mary's, like the day to day doesn't feel super religious at all. Um, I mean, there's a big cross in the middle of the campus, but aside from that, you don't really notice it much. We are required to take religion classes each year, but I mean, I personally find them really interesting. Freshman year, you take what's called Faith in the Modern World, and you're essentially just studying religions across the world. Um, so it's kind of just exposing you to religion in general and doesn't feel super imposed in terms of like forcing you to do all these things. We do technically pray every day before every class. You're supposed to start with prayer. Um, and we have like stuff we always say. Um, but it's not like you get used to it really quick and it kind of feels like it's not even there anymore. Like it's such a quick thing and half my teachers forget to even do it at the start of class. So it doesn't feel super like it doesn't feel like it's always looming over you. Um, we do have mass. It's probably 2 or 3 times a year. Um, and it's kind of just a school-wide assembly. And those definitely feel those are very religious. I mean, we'll have professional dress days for mass, so everyone there's a strict dress code about like suits and ties. And it's a school assembly, and we'll have the whole school in the auditorium saying whatever prayers and readings of the Bible. And but those are like an hour a couple times a year. So that's really minimal and you kind of only know it's there when it's happening. Like I'm not thinking about it during the year. Um, and we're technically what's called like a Lasallian Catholic school. So, um, our school is part of the Lasallian Brothers organization. And so we'll have what's called Lasallian days, uh, once a term. So that's 3 times a year. We're on trimester system. And those Lasallian days are a Thursday and Friday. I actually have them tomorrow. And they're usually, it'll be like service work or a lecture about SEL or like it's a huge range. Last term, we went and did some volunteer work at St. Anthony's in San Francisco, which is a what do you call it? Like a food drive
Hmm.
organization. So those are kind of just like field trips and like it's just an activity. It's not actually very religious. Um, so it's really only mass and prayer, which like it's actually surprisingly a lot less religious feeling than I thought. Um, and I'm actually not sure what percentage of our student body is strictly religious. But it definitely doesn't feel like you're constantly at a religious school.
I would say, and I think for Bishop O'Dowd too, what the admissions people say for those schools, it's about 50% people that identify as Catholic, and then whatever how strict they are within that is even less. And then there's a lot of different other religions at the school. I mean, they do recognize, like when I did the tour there this year, there's it was Rosh Hashanah for the Jewish New Year. They were recognizing that, so I know they recognize other religions as well within the school. And maybe Isla, do you want to speak a little too with what it's like at Bishop O'Dowd?
Yeah, sure. It's pretty similar to St. Mary's. We actually also went to St. Anthony's. So like, and we also have masses. I think they're like a lot more often than St. Mary's. Like we just had one for like Lent and we have like one for Christmas. So like they're like every couple months. And we also have like morning prayer. It's not like every period, but it's like in the morning. And it's really not like really like put upon you. Like they're very open to like everyone's religions and beliefs. And it's like inclusive of everyone as well. Like a lot of people I know aren't Catholic. I think 40 to 50%, like you said, are Catholic at O'Dowd. But yeah, it's really not like strict or anything. And it's like, yeah, it's just like really inclusive of everyone.
Okay, maybe I could add to that question then from you want me to go ahead and just read it, Wendy? You're just yeah, it says these for the Catholic schools, are there some topics you're not allowed to write about, questions you're not allowed to ask, and or clubs not allowed on campus, and are the non-Catholic kids excluded from anything? I don't know if Luke or Isla, you want to I can
I
answer
don't
that.
really
I'd
think
rather hear from you guys, you two.
I don't really think there's like much like I haven't heard of anything like that at Bishop O'Dowd.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like they're really strict about being inclusive about everyone and
Mhm.
like not hating on other religions and stuff. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, definitely same thing at St. Mary's. There's no, like at all, there's no limitations on non-Christian or non-Catholic students. Um, in terms of like clubs and things, the only things that aren't allowed are things that, you should hope aren't allowed. Like same things at EB, like anything extremely controversial. Nothing in terms of religion. Yeah, they're super inclusive. There's no um separation of religious and non-religious.
That's been from my knowledge too with the schools that in addition I mean they have like clubs like the Gay Straight Alliance for example. I mean they don't there's not any concerns with that. I know that even a couple years ago when I was there at school with a parent asked on one of our tours what's their stance like if the kids want to talk about like it was during the when the Roe versus Wade was a topic about women's right to choose for abortion, and the schools this was at St. Mary's, and that's topics that they want the kids to talk about and encourage them to talk about. And what I've heard, this is more specific to St. Mary's, but I think it applies to Bishop O'Dowd and Island. You could can confirm that, is that what the one thing they respect, like even if you go through their program and you are agnostic or atheist, it's just that they want you to respect whatever person's religion is, that's my experience there. Actually find both schools quite open-minded in that respect. Yeah. Great, but good, nice question. Other questions here. We have about 5 minutes left because I did tell the alumni and that we'd finish by 7. Because I know even though your homework sounds a little bit light, it's still you might have other things to do. And I know Noah, it's almost 10 o'clock for you at night. Yeah, so it's the question here at Berkeley High. Can you do math placement tests or placement tests in other subjects? So
Yes. There is, as I said, a placement test for French, and I'm pretty sure for some other electives. And for math, there is a placement test. Um, but I recommend if you want to go into Advanced Math 1 freshman year to take it before freshman year, because I know some people that are like really good at math, but did not take the placement test to get into Advanced Math 1 freshman year. And they took it sophomore year, but the advanced math class had already learned like all this stuff. And then they were just like lost and they were like really good at math. So I would say to get like ahead, I'm not taking advanced math because it's a very rigorous program and I'm kind of looking to like focus my like academics in like other areas. But if you're passionate about math, I think you should definitely um take the test or just to like take it, just to take a test. I feel like taking placement tests is just like good to get used to. But I would take it before freshman year because it's definitely hard to jump back into it sophomore year or junior year. That would be even worse.
and I believe at all the schools that they do have the placement test that's usually in April or May that you take for the math if you want to go into a higher level than just the entry level ninth grade math. Is that correct? Would you guys say that for
Yes.
schools? Yeah. Okay. Great. Any other questions? We have time for maybe one or two more questions. Either write it in the chat or just go ahead and ask it out loud. Well, can I ask a question if nobody else has questions? Maybe what for each of the alumni, just maybe the kind of like a concluding question is, if you have any advice for because it's mostly I was looking through there for seventh grade families, like advice you would give for especially like students that are, in terms of the process, like, because I think all of you actually looked at many different options of schools, considering both your public options, private options, and some advice that you can give to the other students and perhaps the parents as well. And I'll let maybe you call out as you want. Go ahead. Yeah, Noah.
I would say, first of all, kind of when selecting your high schools, um, I would not be very focused on one particular high school. So kind of like how I started, my mom went to Deerfield before I did, so I already knew about the school. And like for a really long time, that was like my main focus was to get into Deerfield. But with Milan and my parents' help, I kind of broadened that to like a few other boarding schools, both on the East Coast and the West Coast, to kind of broaden that range and that of like what possibilities there were. And then I also applied to what did I apply to? I applied to one of the private prep schools in like nearby as well. Um and it was just like I think it was really much more helpful because there's a lot of other schools that I really enjoyed actually visiting. Some just as much as Deerfield, and it really changed my perception. Even though I still did end up going to Deerfield.
Mhm.
So that's my kind of big stick, but also kind of for the parents as well. I think being able to be flexible with their choices. Because sometimes like your choice isn't gonna exactly line up with theirs.
Mhm.
Um, but like I remember with my mother, like she did not, and my actually both my parents didn't want me to be going so far. Like I'm across the country from them, so it's pretty far of a distance. But kind of like being able to find that middle ground instead of like just shutting down any ideas that they might have, can be very like supportive for your kid as well.
Great. Thank you, Noah. Yeah. Anybody else want to add some
Yeah,
piece
I can
there?
add something. I think since I didn't really talk about that too much when you asked me this question, but because I applied to O'Dowd and St. Mary's, but I think like because I honestly in my case I didn't know which school I was going to. I was honestly going to go to O'Dowd, but I think if you're like is set on one school, I think you should still like I said, like the HSBT like just helped me
Mhm.
so much. Like that's like the one thing like I so recommend taking that test because I just think it was so helpful.
Mhm.
And it's just like really good like life skills to like learn that. But and also just like reviewing math before high school, like I just think it's great. But yeah, taking tests, like touring, talking to people that go to different schools, like it's not just for the purpose of if you're going to that school, like it's just to get like a feel of like different like kinds of people and like who you want to surround yourself with and just like you can like really like get to know a school if you like try hard enough. Like I think you can like really do some like investigation, like talking to people, looking up like YouTube videos, just like going on their website,
Yeah.
taking tests. Yeah, touring. I love touring. Touring is great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would highly recommend too. That just, and then the question for is about what is the HSPT test? Do you want to say what it is? Do you want me to say? Do you want?
I can say
Yeah.
it's the high school placement test, and I believe it's for St. Mary's and O'Dowd,
Yeah, for
just
the
for
Catholic
those
schools.
two,
Yes.
just for the Catholic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not for Berkeley High, not for any public schools, but yeah, it's and Madame Touche and Miss Thomas have a class in eighth grade that they teach. I think it's after school. And they just teach you how to because I feel like in EB we didn't really use bubble sheets that much. And so I
Yeah.
was kind of like unfamiliar with them. But they just like taught us how to use those in that class. And they taught us like strategies, like I still use the like put C if you don't know the answer, and then you can like it will like it's like a strategy where you can like get more points, right?
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I've just used like those kind of strategies like throughout high school, so I think it was really good to do.
No. Yeah. So, and then what's new, and I think Valentine and Hank and Noah. I mean, Noah, you might have still had to take like the SSAT or the ISEE for board
Yeah,
schools,
I
right?
took the ISCE, I think, is the one I
Yeah, that was required for the boarding schools, and now Head Royce and College Prep require those tests that used to be optional. Now they require it as part of the admissions. So they're admissions tests. Yeah. So anybody else want to give like you're at 7:02. Maybe if anybody else wants just to add like any final words of advice on the high school, looking at the high schools, or any last questions? No. Okay. So let me see here. Is there a question? No.
I have a quick
Oh yeah,
question.
question. Go ahead. Yes, please. Yeah.
I'm
Got it.
wondering, I don't want to take too much time, but I'm wondering if the young alumni of EB can talk about whether they feel like they work in cooperative environments or more competitive environments in terms of student cooperation with homework and stuff like
I can speak on that. I think since college prep is such a like a rigorous environment and definitely has a reputation for that, um, that might be the conception that a lot of people have, and maybe the same thing for a lot of other schools. But what I would say is a lot of the time, people really just like they're competitive, but they're more competitive with themselves than they are ever going to be with other people. So really, at least in my experience at college prep, the people are really, they're there to help each other, and everyone wants to do well, but everyone wants to see each other do well. And I think that's probably the case at a lot of schools.
Mhm. You see you all shaky in your heads. Yeah, that's what
that.
I would.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. But that nice question because that is come up a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to add one more thing. I mean, Deerfield's also really heavily like an athletic school very much as well. We get a lot of recruits, and I think through like that process, they can also be pretty rigorous and competitive within like teams. And a lot of people end up do actually comparing like what teams they got. So like JV versus varsity versus like a thirds team. And kind of like, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Well, if there are no more questions, oh yeah. So somebody's already putting in the chat. Just really wanted to thank the alumni for taking your time and really sharing your wisdom and your experience with us, because it's what you're doing at these schools is really helping. It helps me do my job well, and it really helps the families as they embark on looking at the high schools, because it's, and all of you, having worked with you in seventh and eighth grade, really thoroughly looked at your schools, and I'm glad to see you thriving at your schools and maturing in such a nice way. And so I really appreciate your help for everybody. Okay.
I'll say one last thing. I don't know
Yes.
if Milan has shared our emails with you, but I'm sure I know I am, and I'm sure we all are. Uh, More than happy to respond to your emails if you guys have specific
Oh,
questions about
yes.
schools that, I don't know, questions that come up later. I'm more than happy to respond to emails, and I'm sure my peers are as well.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's good to know, because I didn't share. I put your emails in BCC, but that's really good to know that I can connect up to any families as we start our meetings. And then for the seventh grade families, I will be sending you information about signing up for an individual high school meeting with me starting after the spring break. Okay. Oh yes, Samira, you even put yours in in the chat. All right. Well, thanks everybody so much. I wish